All right. Today is March 15th. For, those of us who have enemies, today is the day to avoid them. Um, and since y'all are all my enemies, I'm here with you, but at a safe distance. Um, I don't have an agenda per se, but I have a couple of things to share. And Adam asked us to talk about this program, and person asked me and Tim to talk about this program that I'm curious. I want to, if anybody has a copy of it and the other things that this person did. So, on that note, um, I'll start by sharing. So on my website, I have, scanned a few magazines and newsletters, and um, that creates work for me. Yeah, because they need to then be indexed, right? There's articles in the newsletter, and I want to, create little entries for each article and stuff. And a couple weeks ago, I sort of started chipping away at this with the New England Sinclair QL user group newsletter out of Boston, and the International QL report, which was published by Bob Dill out of Rhode Island, and a couple others. And
I have a question about that user group. You know how at the time in the early 80s Boston had the largest user group
yeah,
in the United States. Was it a subgroup of that or was it totally on its
interesting
own?
story. So it started out that way. It started
Oh,
out
okay.
as I can't remember the exact name, but the Boston Computer Society was this massive user group that had special interest groups, and there was a Timex, there was a Sinclair Timex uh, user group, SIG rather, special interest group under the BCS, and as a function of being part of the BCS, there were these various benefits that the user group had. And after a number of years, I don't know exactly when, I'm going to say around 1990 or something, uh, the Sinclair Timex Special Interest Group under the Boston Computer Society had shrunk a fair amount, as you might imagine. And the majority of the folks left over were QL users. And for some reason that I have not gotten to the bottom of, but I found out about recently in reading the newsletters, was that they decided to split off from BCS and just become independent. And so this New England Sinclair QL user group was that independent thing and their little independent newsletter. Who knew? I mean, it's bizarre, but there we are. Um,
Yeah, the
so
Boston group had users all over the United States. That was their trick there, I recall.
yeah, and so did the New England group. I mean, they had a lot of folks, of
Okay.
course, in the Boston area, and the Boston area went up into went up into New Hampshire. I'm not sure how far, uh, there was a Bill Cable lived up in uh New Hampshire, and they would have meetings at people's houses. So they would go up to this guy's house in New Hampshire to have meetings. And uh, folks from Rhode Island, but the distance between Rhode Island and Boston is not that great. But then they also had folks from all over the country that who were, sort of mail, newsletter recipient users, members rather, about 30 people, 35 people at the peak, in the early mid 90s. And all the usual issues.
And they were all QL users?
Yeah, yeah,
Really?
the newsletter was entirely about QL
Oh,
stuff. I mean, they had other computers, but they were all QL users. Like Bill Cable, um, he had a company called Wood and Wind Computing, and he wrote software that leveraged Archive, which was a database that came with your QL. Your QL came with Quill, which was a word processor, Archive, the database. Um, I forgot the name of the spreadsheet, and there was a fourth program. Tim will know.
Yeah, Tim will know.
It's Quill, Abacus, Easel, and Archive.
Easel. That's right. That's the other one. Um, so anyway, when I started chipping away at this set, it was something like 270 issues of various newsletters. And I did about 100-ish by hand. And then the other day I read about skills, which are essentially recipes for Claude, something you tell Claude how you do a thing, and it can then make that into a repeatable recipe. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe I can get it to do this for me. And, with a little bit of kicking and screaming, I got it to go to each of the unindexed newsletters and read the OCR file and turn that into a comma separated value file that had all the stuff I needed, the title, a summary, tags, and some other jazz, the people who were mentioned in the document itself. And over the course of 3 days, I finished all of them. So I'm caught up for a brief moment in time, until more, newsletters land on my porch.
So you're telling me you have indexed every single magazine and newsletter now?
That I have has
Archived.
come through my greedy little hands.
Really?
Yeah, and if you would like to know how many that is, uh, 15,731 articles,
15,000?
15,000. 1,753 issues of newsletters, magazines, etc. And then let's see how many periodicals were there. 170 periodicals. So, but that
And that
includes,
doesn't include Sinclair, obviously, because otherwise there'd be way more.
that doesn't include, what do you mean?
Like- Or when you mean 170 separate periodicals? No.
Yes,
Really?
yes, yeah. I mean, it's Sinclair-specific periodicals. Let me just think about that for a second. That is,
I
I have a
mean, you don't need to list them. I was just,
No, 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 but I do have a tag. I do have a tag
you're
for
like,
them.
I'm going to use this database, damn it.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm going to use this database feature. Okay. So 92 of that 170 are like, Timex Sinclair specific, either things like Sync or user group newsletters or other magazines or something. And then the rest are either general computing publications like creative computing
Mhm.
or Byte or computers and electronics. And then there's a really small number of academic publications and then, sort of news, New York Times, right? There's a couple articles that were published in the New York Times in 1984, for instance.
Yeah, on my own website, when I was first starting, I realized there was way more because you start looking through the newsletters and things, and you start realizing it has like a one sentence reference to an article that was published somewhere. Then you look that up, and then you go down the rabbit hole, and you got to find that. And yeah, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah, the rabbit hole, and as I'm like doing these things, I'm like seeing these interesting names and interesting projects and whatever, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can find that person, and
And you don't
rabbit
have
holes.
any foreign language magazines or periodicals,
Funny
right?
you should say that. There was a
Aha.
guy in Montreal, um, whose name I'm not even going to try to butcher, who published a newsletter in uh, Quebecois, French,
Mhm.
but not quite French. And that was for the ZXC1/1000, 2068, and the QL. So it was a mix of stuff. And actually, that was one that took me a fair amount of time because I would, scrolling through the newsletter and copy over the headline, but then I would go grab like the first paragraph and run it through Google Translate
Hmm.
to put that into the web page because, the number of people who can read French is in the United States is pretty small. Uh, so caught up on that. I'm trying to think what else did I do that uh, Joe is I hesitate to say this. Joe is archiving tapes and discs, and for the next 15 minutes, I'm caught up with Joe. I think Joe's probably going to unload something on me in the not too distant future.
No, I've been doing the difficult ones, so they're very slow and tedious. That's,
Okay.
in fact, I'm running uh, analysis on one of the files right now, right here, next to me as we're in the meeting, because it just takes forever. I have a combination of software I've pulled off the web and Excel spreadsheets, and I've got a convoluted process now.
Okay,
But
so
it
Well,
seems to
tell
be
us about
working.
that
yeah, I'm
convoluted
curious what
process.
because I
Yeah.
know what process I use. What process are you doing?
Well, so if I use um, Audacity to get the best looking waveforms that I can get, and then use some of these other programs that actually measure the bit width, right?
Hmm.
The width of the bit, and then I can dump all that into Excel and index it all from the beginning to the end, and then use math to figure out, hey, are any of these odd? Are any of these outside the normal parameters of how wide that bit should be? And that'll tell me, oh, there's garbage in there, noise or whatever. And then I can decide, hey, that looks more like a one to me than a zero. So I'm going to make that a one by patching it in, or
Wow.
make it a zero by patching it in. And you can get a tape with just like a few bad spots in it that's totally unreadable. And then now you just fill in the missing pieces and then it's readable again. So yeah. So I'm going back to
Wow.
some of the tapes that I had worked on before. That's why I haven't started the discs yet. I'm going back to some of the tapes that I've worked on before, and then I said I can't read these, and go, well, yeah, I actually can, because I can look at the waveform in Audacity and say, hey, that looks like a one, but I can see why it can't be read by the machine because it's either too low or garbled or has noise bits in it, or the wave is too messed up to be read. So yeah, so that's what I've been working on. This process, but there's nothing. I don't have like a step by step. It's not like making a pizza. It's more like looking at a bunch of puzzle pieces
Yeah.
and start putting them together. So yeah, I don't really have a process. It's more of a intuition, I guess. But yeah,
Well, it
that's what I've been
actually
working
does
on.
sound like you have a process of some sort, Joe.
Well,
Maybe it's not one you can explain
it's
like cookbook
chaotic though,
instructions, but
right? It's chaotic depending on, I mean, a cookbook example would be like, well, grind your flour, but how fine are you going to grind your flour? And, what flour? Is it wheat? Is it, something else? Yeah. So there's just so many variables. It's hard to come up with a list of steps.
Wow.
But it seems to be working. I've recovered several of those Synchro Set
Yeah.
tapes that were unrecoverable. I'm working on them now, and I'm getting good programs out of them.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
should have at least two more Synchro Sets and some other goodies, some more of those BBS 2068 tapes. If you have the what
West Bridge modem.
no, well, no, if you just have the desire to set up your own 2068 BBS, there's going to be several examples that you can set up and then dial into it, and
Excellent.
it's
First, remember
1984 again.
phone line.
Right. Well, not really. I mean, you can get a VoIP interface. A lot of these VoIP interfaces allow you to connect two phones together uh, just directly,
Hmm.
right? So you get these cheap little VoIP interfaces. You can get them off eBay for, $10 or something like that. And then either use them just as they are or dump a different firmware to them. Whereas if you go off hook and dial a one on one, it's going to ring the other,
Hmm.
or yeah, and it just it just makes the modem or the modems are allowed to connect, and then you can test things.
In your own home, you're talking about?
Yeah, just a
Okay.
little tiny
No, I
two.
mean, you would
Well,
have two modems set up in your own house?
And
Oh
but
yeah.
eh,
Okay.
eh,
Oh yeah, Joe says. Oh, yeah.
Well, one
Who
on
doesn't
one
have two
bench,
modems set up on their
one
house?
on one bench, and one on the other bench, and some phone lines between them, and they'll talk to each other, and then you can Z modem files across if you want to.
Okay, gotcha.
Adam, who is
Yeah,
it that lives close to you? Is it Ryan or
Ryan
Carl?
lives the closest. Carl also lives close to me.
So you could just run, a
Oh,
twisted pair over to
not that
Ryan's house.
close, but I mean, he does live like not that far away, but I don't think it's that close. It's kind of like the when you get the can and you put it to your ear and you get a tight string and you put it between it when you're kids. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Except, twisted pair, just a simple, uh, you know.
I noticed Ryan's not saying anything like it doesn't sound like a good idea to him either. He's like, I don't want to talk to Adam more. Come on.
Yeah. The other thing that I worked on since the last meeting is there's two sort of in my mind two main emulators for the Spectrum slash 2068. And one is Zesarux, which has a really complicated interface. And the other is Fuse, which does not. And so I prefer Fuse. And there's a person who had been building Mac binaries because Fuse is written, the U in Fuse stands for Unix. Um, so Fuse is written in C primarily for Unix computers, and then people build Windows and etc. But anyway, the person who was maintaining the Mac port had not updated it in a while, a couple of years. And so I've been using Fuse running under a Windows emulator, um, just because the version, I don't think it ran anymore, didn't run very well on my Mac. So I downloaded the source code for Fuse and got Claude to do the heavy work of compiling it and fixing the compile errors and etc. Which it did. And then I was like, oh, I wonder how difficult it would be to add a module to Fuse to do, stuff. And so, I asked that question and Claude's, did some digging and said, oh, yeah, it's all right here in this, I don't know, this peripheral.c module. So let me see. Here's, I don't want to do this. I want to just share the app. Whoops. Let's try that again. There we go. And as you can probably tell, this is Fuse with the Pico interface software tacked on. And Fuse took the Pico software, which is written in MicroPython, and translated it to C. And then we had a bunch of challenges in getting it to run. And at one point, it um, it disassembled the XROM, which is where most of Gustavo's custom code lives, to try to figure out what was going on. But yeah, got it all working, and I can actually, load, do directories, etc. And I
So
will.
this what we're looking at here is running under the Mac now, right?
Yep.
Okay.
hmm Yep. And yeah, this is what the Mac version looks like.
David, how do you do this? This
How do I
blows me
do it? I
away.
have too much time on my hands sometimes. I
Wow.
I just, I think of stupid things and then I go off to AI and say, can you do this? One of the things that working with AI um a vicious cycle of ego reinforcement. I go say, "Oh, I've got this really dumb idea." And he says, "No, you're a genius. That's the most amazing thing you've thought of in the last 15 minutes." I'm like, "I guess I am." Actually, I think that Claude dialed down the the sync of fancy variable a
They've
little
been
bit.
under pressure to do that.
I'm sorry, what's that, Paul?
They've been under pressure to dial down the stroking of the ego.
I know, I really miss it because, for a while there I was like, oh yeah, I must be really smart. Or something. Anyway,
It's definitely or something.
yeah, definitely or something.
It's funny. You talked about AI and recently, and this past week it came up in the Astrocade community, and there's this tape that we've been looking for, kind of like you're looking for software. We've been looking for years, and we even found the programmer who did it, but he's like, it's long gone. I don't have any copies. I only sold in the teens of them, and it's an RPG. It's the only RPG written for the system and BASIC, and he wrote 4 games, and so we don't know if it's a good dump unless you play it, but we don't have the documentation. So another member used the new version of ChatGPT to make maps of the entire dungeons. And so I was looking at them over the past 2 days, and yeah, it seems to have been a good dump. We still got to test it because we can't just throw it out there. But unfortunately, since there's such a limited amount of RAM in the system, uh, then you're fighting monsters, and like in the documentation, they have a name like a minotaur or a robot or whatever game you're playing. But in the game, it just tells you it's a number 14 or the number 20, and you look it up in the table. So then and then you pick up a treasure, which is a number 2 or a number 3, which would be gold coins or a battery or whatever it is you picked up. So it makes the game not very fun when it's just numbers like that.
A translation table. Is
Yeah.
this the one? Because is this the one where you basically can't fight anything because it always ends in death for the player?
One of them, I guess you were following part of that thread.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rescue of Catherine. Yeah, you always will die. So you have to discover her, not to fight. But
How to
seems like
how
a
to
stupid
how to
thing since
speed
it's an
run without
RPG. But
dying?
what do I know? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty funny. Um, hey John,
Yeah,
John, there you are.
Don Mark.
Do you want to share your thing and I'll spotlight you?
Okay. Can you see that?
It's loading. Okay, now we can.
All right. I just did a binary to decimal conversion for 64-bit numbers, and I
Oh,
just wanted to test just shifting ones into it with comma separated values. And then it'll do that, and then it'll start shifting, I guess, zeros into the left and slowly shrinking the number back down um, to maybe I think it's shifting ones in from the left so that it'll do negative numbers. I think that's what it does. Because it's a it's a signed. It can do unsigned or signed numbers. But when I do the negative numbers, I use a period for the comma separated values.
okay.
So this is 64-bit numbers. The Z80 has a really nice um, BCD add feature that I'm using.
Hmm.
So there it is.
Wow. Okay, so um you are shifting. Oh, good. Yeah, okay. I can definitely understand that. And for those who have never seen a machine language program in a CX81 or a 1000, this was the technique. One of the techniques. You put your program into a REM statement at the very beginning of the code, in part because it would get saved with your basic program, but also in part because that location was a known spot in memory. I think it's 16514 off the top of my head. Um,
It has one other handy feature is that a line on the ZX81 can be 16K. So you can do everything in a nice contiguous fashion too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the 1081 had its limitations, but it also had some interesting, we people developed interesting workarounds. So, John, uh, how are you generating? I mean, this is, in terms of machine language, it's a little hard to interpret this, but how are you generating your binary number
Uh,
sequence?
yeah, let's see. If I stop sharing, where's the stop sharing?
I can do that for you. There you
Okay.
go.
All right. I got my Linux computer behind me
Hmm.
that I develop on. I've got a cross assembler, load, open. I'm logging in through PuTTY into my Linux computer. So if I share again, share, that looks right. Okay. This is my Linux computer,
Hmm.
and I've got this Z80 ASM directory, and um, I've I've got test.asm. So if I cat test.asm, you can, well, maybe nano test.asm. Then this is my assembly language that I wrote. Uh,
Okay.
um, Eventually we get to some code here.
Repeat 60.
Um, some code is better documented than others, but um, I didn't like the way the clear the clear the screen. It says this is a ROM routine, and like there's some example of what happens when you use the clear routine, and it disturbs the AF register, it disturbs the BC register and the D register. It it when you call that, all the registers practically it looks like get messed up. So
Mm,
I created a CLS2 command that pushes all these registers, and then eventually it calls CLS, and
right.
then it pops them all back off the stack so
Oh my
that
gosh.
you can call it without disturbing all those registers.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what I've done with a lot of the code. But anyway, let's see. I've got build.sh. So this is my build script. It looks like I'm using
Yep.
Z80DK-ASM. And this is that magic address you were talking about.
Yeah.
Of the REM statement, is that what you meant?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hmm.
yeah. Here I've spelled it out as 16514, but that line is commented out. And then there's something called app make that I call. I don't know how to get that. Oh, drag it to move it. Okay. Um, Z80DK-S app make plus ZX81. So that tells it what app I'm making for.
A target. Yeah.
Disable auto run, dash B probably says here's the binary, and then the binary is test.bin.
Hmm.
And that turns it into a .p file, test.p, that I can then put into Google Drive, and then I can come over to my Windows computer here and download it off of Google Drive and then run it in my emulator on Windows.
You know, you could set up a Samba server. You know what? This is 20-year-old knowledge. I don't even know what it is anymore. 20 years ago, you could have set up a Samba server on your Linux box and made it made the drives available to your Windows computer as network drives.
It's basically
no
equivalent
one
to
here
publishing a
uses
share
old
under
tech.
Windows.
What's that?
It's published same as publishing a share under Windows, except using Samba on the Linux side. Because Samba supports the CIFS interface or CIFS protocol. So
It's been so long, like I said, 20 plus years since I've done it. So
well, I've always done it mostly with a dedicated NAS, which runs Samba. So
Mhm. Mhm.
You just run the emulator on the Linux box.
Yeah, you can run.
yeah. Install Samba and then do the configuration. There's some decent books out there or online docs on that sort of stuff. But basically, you're going to take a directory, what do you want to call it, where you put all your files and publish that, and it's available for your Windows side. It'll be workgroup only, no Active Directory, but who has Active Directory at home? So
Yeah, right. Right.
In celebration of Pi Day, I just printed pi out to 1,000 places. You can ignore the last three digits here, but I did 1,003. But if you ignore those last three digits, there's 3 point and then 1,000 digits after the decimal point.
I wonder how long that would take to calculate on an
I'll
81.
go BC. Well, as soon as I saw the word scale, I knew that had to be BC. BC stuff before.
Yeah, that's the arctangent of 1 times 4 is what that statement right there is. The arctangent of 1 times 4.
Wow. Wow. Cool. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to kick you out of the Coco group.
No, they'll let him stay.
No, the TRS-80 Model 1 used a Z80 microprocessor.
Okay,
So
I guess.
I'm doing this in Z80
Yeah.
assembly, so
Okay.
they will, and also the MC10, the microcomputer 10 that Radio Shack sold looks an awful lot like a Timex Sinclair.
That used like a 6800 chip too, right? Like a not even a
6803, I think.
6803. Okay.
303, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I've got one tucked away
Oh.
somewhere.
Well,
I-
go calculate
it-
pi on it.
Is
I just
perhaps
picked up a Coco one last week, but I know that's heresy.
perhaps the reason the clear screen uses so many registers is because it probably generically tries to deal with the case of also having a collapsed display file.
Could be, yeah.
And there might be like a simpler core part to call if you just have a expanded one. I don't know.
That doesn't make sense because all you need is 25 bytes that you could just duplicate because it's the end of line if you're clearing and then you're under 4K or under. So I don't know why they'd have to clear all the registers.
Well, but you have to move memory around. Remember, it's not it's not bitmap. So you have to, if it's a fully expanded file, you could actually just write, what is it, 33 times 24
About 600 and something.
bytes in the right pattern because the size is constant. But if it's dealing with a potentially collapsed display file, it's variable. Maybe the core routine uses some of those registers in working that out. And then maybe
well, all else fails. What's it say here? The address to the start of that part of the display file that is to be cleared is found, and the test is made to see if more or less than 3¼ K of RAM is fitted. So it does do a memory test. As an expanded display file is required, a suitable number of spaces is printed so as to clear the specified number of lines. So
Wait, so every time you do a clear screen, it does a memory test?
yeah, So yes, so
Well,
this is page 16 of Dr. Logan's
I would
completing this
imagine
assembly.
I would
So
imagine it might. Well, no, that's true. It will, I believe it does, because I think what will happen is if you start to run out of memory, I think it will collapse the display file.
as a collapsed display file is required, a LDIR instructions used to copy a new line character and the number of times specified. Yeah. So yeah, it does. It is in the document. Take a look at it. Well, luckily, I had this real close to me at my bookshelf. So for a while, I was kind of living in this when I was doing my floating point work playing. So it's a good book to have. I bought it years ago, never really used it, but now I'm glad I've got it. And of course, it's online for those who want, but it's nice having a hard copy.
Yeah, those things turn up pretty often. They're not hard to find, like you said, Tim.
I was surprised how hard people said that the astronomy book for the ZX81 was to find.
I got two copies in the basement.
I was about to get a second copy from the Bill Miller collection, but the other guy goes, "Oh, that looks interesting." Oh, damn, he's going to take it. Well, mine's falling apart. So we ever need to sacrifice one like to properly scan, I could do it, but we got to scan. That was the main thing.
What do you mean properly scan? What's wrong with the
Where you
scan we
cut the
have?
entire book apart, and scan it. Whereas before I was just, flipping it open.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. So it's like probably dark on the inner margins.
it
Yeah.
could be, yeah.
That's called gutter, and you get the gutter shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that related to bowling gutter? No.
Yeah, I recently scanned a well, it's not a one of a kind manual technically, but it's the only one of it that's known for the APL language for the video brain. I scanned that a couple of weeks ago, and I had to use my scanner. I scanned it in color, and every single page I went through and took out the shadows, and it wasn't too manual. I mean, it was manual, but it didn't take too long. But in the end, I got a really nice grayscale scan of the APL language manual for the
The
video
video
brain.
brain.
Yeah. The only language, and it only had 1K available to it. So you were really stuck when you were programming that language.
I Did you learn anything in
Do
looking
you
at the
think I read
pages
it?
of,
No, I said I scanned it.
oh, okay. I mean, you don't, okay.
It's APL.
I mean, the only thing the APL is just a wall of
It's very
impenetrability
odd. Yeah.
to me.
Someone wrote a book in December without even having the language manual for that uh, language. And I was like, kind of contacted him. His name is James. And I said, how'd you do that? And he's like, well, I couldn't get the book, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, let me work on this. I probably can find someone who has the book. And I found him and he sent me the book, which I still have right behind me because he said, I'm out of town. Don't send it back. I don't want it to get lost. I'm like, okay. So I've got it. And so he sent me an APL 360 reference manual from 1972 for the IBM, and which is nothing like the video brain version. Um, but I have that now too. So very excited.
There was a Canadian computer uh that had two cassette drives in it that also did APL, if I
Oh,
recall correctly. Um, I can't
was
remember
there an
the
APL for the Timex or the
no,
Sinclair? Probably. No.
no, no. Um I've never seen anybody. I
That crazy?
well, I don't know how you would even implement it. I mean, it's kind of my impression. It's a bigger language. You know, you need all the crazy characters.
Well, they didn't use any of the crazy characters on the video brain version. They do it a little differently, yeah. So they don't have
I
Interesting.
them. Yeah.
believe there's an APL for the QL. That's the one, but I've never tried it because it's just a horrible language to try.
People who like it, they'll love it. That's what I've learned in the last month and a half.
Uh-huh.
Like people freaking love that language. I don't
Uh-huh.
understand why, but they love it. There's podcasts about it. I mean, and I
Wow.
listened to it because James, the guy who wrote the book, he was on there, and so I was like, so I listened to it, and like, there's hundreds of episodes of this podcast, and I was like, wow. Yeah.
My closest brush with APL, there was this guy uh at the University of Massachusetts. I think he was a student, and somehow I found out that he knew APL and um, that he had like some little program that he liked to type in on the mainframe. And we had UMass had some Tektronix graphics terminals. Tektronix terminals were had vector displays instead of raster displays, so the beam just went anywhere in any which direction. Um, anyway, uh, this guy wrote an Etch-a-Sketch program for the um, Tektronix, whatever model it was, and that one had these little wheels, X and Y wheels. So you would, move your cursor around, press probably a space bar or something in order to, draw extremely crude graphics. And he typed his, he'd go and type this shit in APL on that terminal. And it's like, it's just, you know, it's like in the movies, just this string of bizarre characters that make, have no meaning whatsoever to humans. It's
Right.
like, oh yeah,
The
yeah,
one thing is I learned when I was researching the language just a little bit, I was just dipping my toes in, is people love to write one-liners in it because you can like make really complicated programs in one line,
yeah,
but nobody can understand them if you look at it. I mean, I guess an APL programmer could. So I shouldn't say that, but they sure look weird. Yeah.
yep, yep, yep. Write only
For all those
language.
people who are interested in this APL language, I dropped the a link to the manual on my Video Brain site in my show notes or in
And
the
the video brain had what, like a 1K or something you said?
uh I think it had one, yeah, it had 1K, but some of that RAM was used by the cartridge, so they had to put an additional 1K on the cartridge. So yeah, in order for you to have something to program in. Yeah, and it was also a large cartridge for that time. It came out in early 1979, late 1978, and
Okay.
it was 12K ROM, which is pretty
Bizarre.
large. Yeah.
Bizarre. Hmm. All right. Um, cool. Well, anyone else got anything they want to jump in and share? Greg, what kind of program are you working on that you need to be able to figure
Oh,
out?
it's the same thing I've been putting off forever to get recorded. It's that uh the Chris Seavey uh
Oh,
code. I have always had two copies, and I'm like, I need to get it finally videoed and out there, and but I now have it so it can with the information I got today, I should have one executable that'll work on NTSC PAL and also auto detect if it has color. Um, so
and so
that
and
that's
so
what it's been sitting around. It's just a project that's been sitting idle now for months, and I just decided to pick it up and actually get it done and out there. So
you you showed this, I think, at
BCF, yeah, I
BCF
had
Midwest, right? And well, I mean, it'll sync, like you said, but you have to have play it against, you have to have an audio source, right?
yeah, that's the caveat is you have to push it, you have to have something to play it, and you have to hit the key at the same time to keep it synced up. And I discovered one other thing is that since most of that music was on LPs, they don't all rotate exactly at 33 and 1/3, even though it's a 5. And so there's a slight, I found online two copies that people have made of the audio plus the one I did, and they all are off by a second or two.
Oh
So
wow.
I don't know which one's correct. So I took the one that I found on the internet that had the video attached because I use that for my timing. I'd stop the video at certain times to see what the time was to start the various things. So yeah, there's a whole story behind how of all the rabbit holes. I thought this would be a 5 minute fix. It was in basic code, but for the timing, he just did for loops, like for x equals 1 to 7, and they were so small that that difference between 50 and 60 hertz is you don't have the granularity that you
Yeah.
need. And so, like I said, it was a rabbit hole, which is why I went. And then the printf in C is really slow, so I ended up writing directly into screen memory and Like I said, one rabbit hole after another. So maybe someday we can talk about it in one of the meetings. All the hassles that I had to jump and hoops I jumped through.
I think it's too late. I think you started talking about it in this meeting, so.
Yeah, well.
Um, yes, David. Fuse runs under Linux. Oh, so does Zesarux. The UX in Zesarux, I think, references Linux. But
Yeah, I have both running. I think my Zesarux that I compiled. Yeah.
By the way, if you have a Linux subsystem for Windows, you can open the Linux and the Windows one simultaneous. So you can actually have them both running on your desktop at the same time. I've done it.
hmm, hmm. I
Yeah,
solved
you
that
can.
problem by not having Windows.
Is there any particular flavor of Linux I have to use for this?
Linux subsystem for Windows will let you install any flavor that you want, but I use the Ubuntu 20 point something or other.
Because a lot of
It
places
does
have been
support the
pushing
X
the
server.
Linux Mint.
Uh, you will probably have to, install a variety of libraries. I mean, does Linux come with like GCC by default anymore?
By
Or
default, yeah. Matter of fact, if you get the full installation, it comes with all the compilers and the desktop. You can run the desktop in a window
Okay.
if you want.
Okay.
So yeah, and then of course you can just use apt in Linux to grab whatever you want.
Yeah.
Apt is only for Debian.
Yeah.
What's the equivalent? I
Well, there's
always
RPM for Red Hat. Is that still a thing?
Is it TNF?
I
It's been a
was
while. I run Debian myself. I'm trying to remember what it is for Red Hat. I know one is RPM, one is Yum. I can't remember what it is in Red Hat.
I was thinking of wiping the disk on this particular PC completely and going straight over to the complete Linux OS.
Yeah. Well,
And
Well,
the,
the other thing too, David, is there's an easy little switch you can do for the Windows 11 install that will bypass all the, the TPM stuff. It'll let you put 11 on pretty much anything, as long as it can run 11, right?
Yeah,
I
but
think
that's
I also find that Linux runs on older hardware quite easily.
yeah.
It does. But I'm just saying, if this is something fairly new, like in the last decade, you can definitely put Windows 11 on it.
yeah, but Microsoft has been quietly stomping those options into the ground.
Well,
They
also,
have
don't
been,
you
but
have Microsoft account to run Windows these days?
no, they kind of force
the
you into
installer
that, but
requires it, but you can still bypass it.
there's all kinds of ways to get a local account so that you don't have to deal with that.
I just avoid it by running Linux. I don't have to deal with Microsoft.
That's the best option, Tim. The other one is a tactical nuke at Redmond, but that's, maybe overboard.
Yeah, I've been running Linux exclusively for 15 years now, I think.
Well, it's a rich.
You're a liar. I know that you're using Timex computers as well. So
Well, no, 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 because I don't have any. Haven't touched the hardware in even longer years. I really have 100% emulator.
Will Fuse run on any flavor of Linux, or do I have to have a specific version of Linux?
No, it should run on any.
It's same thing with Zesarux.
Yeah.
I had problems getting Fuse working myself. I use Zesarux. It's not the best, but it's not bad. The other option is to use Warrior under DOSBox, which is a DOS emulator. And the documentation is out there.
I've done that too. The Warrior though has its own
issues.
Features. It also has its own proprietary tap format that's not compatible with a lot of other emulators that you actually have to use one of their conversion programs in order to convert it into the form that will work on other.
That was the first emulator, right, for the system?
No, there were a bunch of others.
No, it was a Z81. that was marked. There was a Z80 emulator that was mm, created by a fellow who lives in Holland.
Oh, Carlos de Helms?
Mhm.
Carlos, I think. There was
Luther's.
also a TS-1000 emulator written by Jeff Vavasseur of Canada. I've got one called ZX81EM. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's really, really fast under DOS. It's blindingly fast. So, but Jeff Vavasseur, who did one TS-1000 emulator, did other emulators, moved on to get into the computer business. Remember those little handheld game controllers you could buy that like an Atari 2600 inside one little controller?
Sure.
He did
Yeah.
things like that.
Hmm. Hmm. But yeah, David, Fuse, Zesarux, there's probably one or two others that
I think those only two do it 2068 though.
yeah, right, 2068.
There's an emulator that runs under Android, but it's not user friendly. I
Well,
don't know who designed it, but it's one. I think he must have had 4 arms and 12 fingers on each hand.
yeah, there's a ZX81 emulator for iOS that is, I mean, it's cool, but it's also on your phone, which to me is like, I'm used to Sinclair small, but that's too small. The keyboard is really tiny. Okay, so apt works in terminal on Ubuntu. Okay. Yeah, and
Yeah, there's a package manager under
as well.
Yep.
yeah.
It's clear just to use apt-get. That way it's,
Yeah, that's it. It's actually apt-get, not app, but that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
We get
it.
Uh,
It's actually called app. The name of the app is app,
APT.
APT.
and that's an emulator for the.
No.
No.
So if you want to install software on Debian, apt-get, and then you tell it what you want, and it'll go out and find it. Like
Okay.
you want you want less instead of more, you say apt-get less or apt-get. If you let's say you run a command less, and it goes less not found, but you might want to run this to go get it. You do apt-get space less. It'll ask you for your admin password, and then it goes and gets it and installs it. Says, here you go. And you
Yeah, and it figures out the dependencies as well. So, so if something requires another library, it will grab that as well at the same time.
Yeah. David, there's a package for Debian for Fuse that's even the most current. I'm just looking at this page right now. I'll drop it in the chat, which would probably you could probably use apt-get to install Fuse.
I think that's all I did. I think I just did an apt-get Fuse and it figured it out on its own.
Yeah, I think all those
Fun.
Fuse have those Spectrum utilities too.
Right.
But I'm not sure if the dependency requires them or not. I just had a problem just getting it to work, and Zsarc seems to work. And despite the writer of Zsarc not wanting to do any documentation whatsoever, he feels as the program documents itself. It's actually not that bad once you figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is something the author says, or this is something you just gathered?
Yeah, so I asked him about documentation. He goes, "You don't need documentation. Why would I ever write documentation? There's no purpose of writing documentation. I spend too much time writing the code. I'm not writing any documentation." Okay, fine, whatever, dude.
I got the same response.
Documentation is more a baby boomer Gen X kind of thing. After that, they didn't give a shit anymore.
After that, they just don't know it.
Well, being that I work for HP, documentation, I worked for Intel, and Intel was really pretty much on top of it because it had to be ISO 9001 compliant. So they had to have audits, and they had to, look at all the documentation every year, had to have, all kinds of things. So it had to have revisions. But now I work at HP and we don't have that. And so, they're working on things, but, they're busy working on it. They're not documenting it. And that's kind of, when I did it back in my days, you kind of worked on the documentation, not as you're developing it so much, but, you'd kind of go back one day and kind of document what you did just so that not only for you, but, it'd just be easier on you later. And that doesn't seem to be something that people do these days. Maybe they just throw it into fucking chat GPT and let it write the documentation.
I remember years ago, this is like 2008, 9, 10, something. No. Anyhow, some years back, I was working for LSI. They gave me a different phone. I had a Pearl beforehand. They gave me an Android phone. I'm like, great, okay. Do you have a manual for this? And I go, manual? It's a phone. What do you need a manual for? Well, I don't know how to use the interface. So, what do you mean know how to use the interface? Well, it's my first smartphone. What do you mean it's your smartphone? It's like, fine, whatever, guys. They had no clue at all. Like, it's a smartphone. You should already know how to use it. It's like you're born with it. Like, no, never used one. So I like to read up on how to use it. Nope, not interested. Not their problem.
There's
most companies I work with now, we just use like Doxygen, and the comments you put in your code automatically create the documentation, at least from an API level.
That'd be great if people put comments in their code.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, my oldest son, he's a programmer, and so he's working on legacy stuff. So he puts in a lot of comments, right? But it's like, well, you're taking too long. Just do the patch and move on. So yeah, the lack of comments is now definitely a thing.
too funny.
Maybe it'll come back into, just like, old is new again. Maybe it'll come back, but I don't know.
So, Carl, you're saying that documentation is going to be like vinyl? People are going to get document players?
like cassette tapes, like 8 tracks. The millennials and Gen A or Gen Z, they're starting to kind of crave the physicality.
Yeah.
There's a Gen A. I've never
now.
heard of Gen A. What is
Well,
Gen A?
because it's after Gen Z. It's the
Oh.
latest generation. Yeah.
Oh, which is okay.
Alpha, I believe.
Yeah.
I always try my best to document things because you never know when you need to revise a program, and by that time you go back to the program, you're scratching your head, you say, well, what the heck is this for? Or why did I do that? Or, I mean, by the time you get back to it, the program might as well have been written in Martian.
Well, when you get our age too, that right? I go into the other room and I can't even remember what the hell I went in there for.
But that's a whole separate thing, Carl. And there's like these papers about that. People have studied that, the walking through a doorway, you forget whatever. So if
well, I want to say something about the documentation real quick. I remember in the basic manuals back in the early 80s, they would advise against it because, every single piece of REM code that was a remark, the
took up memory.
The basic program had to go through, and it would slow down the program. So if you wanted a faster program, it'd say remove all your comments, and which makes sense to me. It's not a way to document your program, but
either that or rem at the end. Put all your rems at the end of the program.
Yeah,
because it never really.
But that's when hard copy is really handy.
Yeah. All right. So
if you use the make base, you can tell it to strip those things out. That's how if I'm transpiling, that's an easy way to do it. So you can document well, but you don't have to bring any of this stuff over.
Or and compiled basic. Too.
Yeah, usually if you compile it, it doesn't take any of that crap.
Well, the make base doesn't really compile it per se. It just converts it into basic.
Yeah, tap file or P file.
Yeah.
When I did Structured Super Basic, that was the idea I did with that. You could have comments that would not be included into your final basic code. So that way it kept it small, but you had the comments still in your original source code. So because Structured Super Basic was nothing more than a preprocessor for Super Basic that allowed like ZMake base, no line numbers, use labels instead of numbers. So Same idea, just with super basic.
Yeah.
Anybody ever uses Mega Basic? I tried using it once in an emulator, but I think the emulator wasn't perfect enough at that time to be effective.
Well, that's Spectrum only, right, David?
Yeah, it was Spectrum only.
Yeah, there's your answer.
I've never heard of Mega Basic, so
That's a new one for me.
It's like Beta Basic, I think, one of these expanded versions.
Yeah,
Um,
and Highsoft had an expanded version of Basic too, but I never got it. But
um, Interesting that you should bring that up, David. I think it was Time Machine. The person who wrote Time Machine, which is a compiler for um, uh, Sinclair to some assembly sort of stuff, to speed up your programs. That uh, that person
I
was
believe it was
Canadian.
integer basic only.
What's that?
It was, if I remember correctly, it was integer basic
Time
only.
Machine was integer basic only. I don't
I
remember.
want to say it's Cameron something, but
Yeah,
was from
Cameron Hain.
Soft. But was he really Canadian, or did they import the compiler from the UK?
He was shoot. And
So I
now I've
thought it was
lost.
actually
Bang!
Highsoft. Wasn't a version of Highsoft Basic for
Oh,
Time Machine?
or is it? I'm thinking no, I think that's I'm thinking maybe Simon, what's Simon's
No,
last
Simon
name?
Goodwin did Zip.
Zip, right.
Yeah,
And
which
when
he still sells,
Which
and he
still
said
ported
sells?
that,
he still sells apparently, and he said he ported it to the 2068 without ever touching a 2068.
right. Yes.
I asked him some time ago. I think I think I've been in contact with Simon the last few years. I can't remember when or how, but maybe he
What,
reached out and pinged me. I can't remember.
Tim,
The last
what
couple of years.
program you talking about?
Zip, the Zip basic compiler. He did a version for Spectrum. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Was it Zip also?
I think it was. Yeah. But he worked with Knighted Computing because they're the ones who wanted the 2068 port.
Right. I think
And
that also some of his stuff was like some of his compiler stuff he actually used as a college project.
yeah. Yeah, he talks about it on his webpage. It was really interesting. Which I
Ooh,
may still have open. I don't know. Let's see
Yeah,
here.
he's actually been to my house.
That's crazy.
Did you take anything?
So back in what 90,
Jeez.
1999, there was a East Coast and a West Coast QL show. I hosted the West Coast one, and Simon visited the East Coast and the West Coast and stayed here my place for about a week. So we had Simon, Stewart, no, Honeywell, a couple of British guys were
Oh
here. A
yeah.
couple of German
Okay.
folks were here, and somebody got a picture of me and Simon and somebody else in my hot tub. I need to dig out.
Yeah, Simon talks about it on his webpage pretty extensively about the writing zip basic and then porting it um to the 2068. But if I recall correctly, Cameron Hain was actually a real live Canadian and not just,
Okay.
a British Canadian.
So I thought Time Machine was a port of Highsoft.
I think it's actually the other way around.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the crazy part, is that he wrote it for the 2068 and then it got ported to the
Ported.
Spectrum. Yeah.
Well,
Wasn't aware of
Highsoft
that.
Basic went off to have its own life on 16-bit computers.
Yes.
They used to have it for the Amiga.
Yeah, and it's on the Atari ST as well.
Yep. Yep. I remember that being available for
There's
yeah,
not,
so
there's not many programs that were built here that went over to the England and did well.
so the Highsoft for the ST, that's Simon, though.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Remember?
he wrote the
Okay.
Highsoft basic for the ST and for the Amiga.
I remember using the 68,000 because the QL was 68,000. He's big
Right.
into assembly. Then he got into video game audio work and wrote a book called Boom or something like that.
Yeah. This wrote a book about a bunch of stuff about audio.
Yeah, he came over once here. God, this is years ago, 15 years ago, for a developers conference, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to Petaluma for a live show, live band show." He said, "Hey," he dragged him and a couple of friends along and really liked it. I had 8 people in that minivan that day, drive to Petaluma.
What was that, ska?
Yep.
Of course.
And so he is such an audiophile that he had a little BlackBerry Pearl with him or something like that, and he wanted to record the show, but he only had headsets. But it's like headphones and microphones are essentially the same thing, right? So he hung his headphones on his, on it over his head,
Hmm.
and then just push record, and he recorded the entire concert.
That's very smart. That's very smart. Yeah. Um, Tim, what do you know about Lloyd Drager?
Well, I went and dug up the article I wrote. I'm trying to go by memory here. Um, so without going into too much detail, he was a doctor. He had a PhD in something.
I think it was chemistry or something.
Yeah, let's see here. So he did 3 books: the ROM manuscript, Introduction to 26-State Machine Code, and Advanced 26-State Machine Code. Um, all of them were like 250 pages or roughly. So that's a lot. And he did entire thing was written with MScript and stored on with the Arco disk drive. So it was not only just about the 26, he actually wrote the entire thing on 26-State. So look, I'm reading my article. A bachelor degree in chemistry and philosophy. Um, so, so explicitly you asked about games. So it looks like he worked with Mark Stuber to speed up the very first version of the War in the East for the 1000. And then so Drager's active player of that game has stepped back to help Mark. Drager also he wrote his own version of Barbarossa. So Barbarossa was the Avalon Hill game that Mark Stuber used as a base for War in the East. And
Oh,
apparently Drager also used it.
Oh, you mean like the
Pretty
Avalon Hill? It's like a board game?
Yes.
Oh.
You're showing your age there, Adam.
Well, no. I've just played
The
Risk the other day, so I know
the
board
Okay,
games.
okay.
Yeah.
so the Avalon Hill games were strategy games. They weren't necessarily straight up board games, and like a lot of the Avalon Hill games would recreate actual battles, Battle of the Bulge, other battles like that, with small, basically square chits that were the units, and you could recreate large battles with these Avalon Hill games.
yeah.
Um, and
Yeah,
then
I never played any of them, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they had a line of bookshelf games, which were tabletop games and were essentially things, like the standard tabletop thing that were not military.
Acquire, yeah. They also
Yeah,
had
the
some like
Baker
business
Street.
strategy one. But almost all of theirs were bookcase games. Like I have the first one I bought from Avalon Hill was Starship Troopers, and it's actually in a bookcase container that designed to be on your bookshelf.
Yeah,
So, but he created a version of his Barbarossa called World War II Eastern Front. I don't think I've ever heard that. Then he went on to create Conquest, a strategic generic war game for the 26-State. I believe I remember in the Zerg Live Alive Conquest being advertised.
Yeah.
Uh, Never bought it. I don't know if anybody ever, I don't think I've ever seen anybody talk about it or even have a copy. I thought maybe RMG might have carried it. And you got the stuff from Jack Boatwright from RMG. Maybe it might have been a copy there.
Didn't see. Yeah, I haven't run across it.
Why don't you
Okay.
show the ad that for the game? Like share your screen and show the ad real
Oh, give
quick.
me a sec. Yeah, okay. Um,
What's interesting was in his obituary, no one talks anything about Timex Sinclair. All they talk about how he's an active member in a village playhouse.
yeah.
Uh, and he umpired slow pitch softball. But I mean, for us, he's known as being a very deep person with the 26th State and Assembly. Let's say he passed away in 2016 at the age of 84. So he was
Yeah.
older when he got his hardware.
Yeah. Yeah. Late bloomer, as it were. Yeah, this program is from 93. Strategic generic war game. And like y'all, I started my first war strategy game aside from Risk was Tactics 2 from Avalon Hill,
Okay,
which, I guess,
classic.
yeah, yeah, people complain about it, but of course I was 13 or 14 at the time, so I had no clue about, you know, its level of inaccuracy or whatever.
Well, plus it had squares instead of hexes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'll have to go pull it down off the shelf and see.
Or was it
Um,
tactics? So that was because there was the very first one of the first ones was use squares, and there's the diagonal option was faster than then they realized, oh, hexes are much better, and then everything else after that was all hexes.
yeah.
Uh, I was big into board games. I had a collection probably of maybe 50 or more board games, war games running around. I bought almost anything from metagaming. And micro games, I still have a bunch of micro games running around.
Hmm.
Uh,
I
and
have,
then
oh shoot, where is it? I thought I
a
had
bunch
it.
of books on the history of my of wargaming and RPGs.
Oh,
And
I
of
used
course, I have a huge ogre collection.
um remember Rescue on Antares from TSR was a micro game. Um
Yeah, Saga was another one with
yeah, it was
TSR.
another one. Yeah, yeah. So these are,
I got that one.
all lots of
Um,
fun for various values of fun. Um
I got into collect tactical space combat games, um, Starfire series,
Well, I
I
want to
think
go
there's
back
other
to that
stuff.
ad because we didn't really talk about the ad so much as
oh yeah,
like,
yeah, sorry. Let me
yeah,
so as Tim said, Lloyd wrote and he
because
taught
it
these
says it's written
classes.
completely in machine language, which is pretty impressive.
Well, and I think that
And
that's
it,
yeah,
and
I
when
mean,
and its time of release is very unusual as well. That's what
uh,
caught my eye about it. It came
It's
out in
late. Yeah,
1993.
93 is late.
93. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he taught, he was part of this SMUG user group, which was Milwaukee, if I recall correctly. Um, Wisconsin, Milwaukee. Yeah. And he taught machine language programming courses. You know,
Oh,
the user group would sponsor these, you'd have these classes that user groups would do.
I
And
wonder if anyone ever recorded those on VHS.
I
That would
kind of
be
doubt it.
something to
That would
know.
be bizarre, but yeah.
It wouldn't be
Uh,
bizarre. It'd be awesome. I'd love it.
and that's what resulted in those books, by the way,
Oh.
that Tim was talking about, the intro and the advanced. And he was supposed to do a third machine language programming book. He mentions it in multiple places. Um, but I think that this ad came from the Smug newsletter. Uh, and because I liked those things as a kid, they still have they still appeal to me. Like War in the East is a really nifty little um
Well, is it
simulation.
possible you have some connections to people from Smug you could write to them?
Some of the folks from Smug have passed away,
Okay.
Yeah,
as you might
they were
imagine.
an older group.
And actually, some of their stuff, I don't like. I bought this box of cassette tapes off of eBay once. Turned out it was from one of the Smug, Dick Cultus was his name. Turns out it was from his collection. How do I? Oops, I just lost my. What the
There
heck?
was I remember one of the guys from Smug had really big, thick glasses. I mean, big glasses. Can't remember his name. He
Hmm,
came to Dayton and my house a couple of times.
hmm.
Because
The only war game that I played, it was on the 1000 for the ZX81 would be the Follow the Third Reich. I don't know
Oh,
why the hell I would buy a game like that being a kid, but
was it a true hex based or was it one of these more like MC Lord? Because I don't think for the ZX81, I think War in the East was the only true war game.
yeah.
I haven't heard of any
well,
other.
this was obviously the Fall of the Third Reich, so it's something to have to do with that German battle. I'm sure there's ads for it. I remember seeing the ads for it, so I
Yeah,
actually bought that.
Fall of the Third Reich was an Avalon Hill game. Avalon Hill did a couple games, did some computer games. They did the B-1 bomber for the ZX81
Yeah.
1000, but I thought that was the only one they ever did.
But I just, that's the only one that you're talking about like war games, like that kind of, like German, World
Well,
War
how long did
II
these
stuff.
games take on the computers back at that time to play a full game?
Hours.
Like if you're going to play one in the
hours.
2068
Yeah.
hours?
Um, Carl, so Fall of the Third Reich was one, and then there was a Battle of the Bulge. These are all done by, I believe, that same person, Mark, whose last name escapes me, who wrote the other one we were just talking about.
It's Mark Stuber.
Mark Stuber, thank you.
He did for the 2068, he did like four of them. I
Yeah.
think there's a couple still out there. One about Britain, but I think for
Oh
the
yeah.
1000,
There's Ardennes, the Battle of the Bulge, Britain invaded, Fall of Rome, Fall of the Third Reich, which is a 2068, as far as I'm aware, game.
yeah, if I was for the 1000, he only did the War in the East.
War in the East, right, for the 1000. But then he ported that to the 2068, then to the Sinclair QL. That's kind of a interesting
Yeah,
little
yeah. I had the QL version. Real
thread.
slow, fortunately. Man, was it slow.
Oh,
So does that mean it was probably written in BASIC then?
It was. It was written in BASIC.
yeah.
I don't think he really compiled it. It might have been run better as a compiler. The problem I had with him is the concept of war games back from the 60s and 70s was something called zone of control, where once one counter is near another counter, opposite, the good guys versus the bad guys close to each other, you can't move them because they're locked in. You can't just move them as you wish. And that's what pretty much he did was a zone of control a lot with his War in the East, which is made it more difficult to play. I'm used to more of a tactical where the concept of zone of control went away. It was very old. By the time I got involved in the late 70s, zone of control had gone by the wayside.
So war games supported Runaway and Flee as options.
Or you just moved them. Didn't have any. If you were too close to the piece, you couldn't move. That was the zone of control concept.
Yeah.
Whereas after they said, "Nah, screw zone control, move."
Uh-huh.
But that was also higher level. It was more of you're talking about companies versus units or tactical. So zone of control is more for strategic games, like War in the East.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is all like beyond me, but it is kind of interesting to hear because I played D&D growing up and that all came out of
Exactly.
after
D&D
that.
came out of chainmail from
Yeah.
Gygax and what's his name?
Arneson.
Arneson, yeah.
Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax.
Yeah.
I used to have a copy of chainmail too.
But those guys
You can get
were
reproductions pretty easily.
those guys
The
were
originals are very expensive.
Well,
yeah.
this was years ago, so I think I might have got an original back in the late 80s.
Yeah. One of the other things that happened since our last meeting is Mowgli came and graciously took away boxes out of my attic for me. So I now have room, a little bit more room. I have 8 boxes worth of room between my attic and my basement. Um, and they will,
Is this all stuff that's already been archived? Is that
Yep.
what?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep, all scanned and et cetera. Those, hundreds of issues of newsletters and whatnot, and catalogs and all this other kind of jazz. Um, yeah, yeah. It'll keep Mowgli busy for at least 2 hours. Um,
Well, yeah, I've made it through like I think 4 of the boxes at this point. Unpacking them, I've made it through like about 60% of that, bagging and boarding them. So I've got a tub and a half worth of stuff that will wander its way to the museum and some other stuff that I'll just stick in the file over here at in the
For a
warehouse.
second, I thought you were going to say fire.
Well, no, file.
file. Um, so, and then,
I would recycle anything that was actually going away at this point. So like, and in some cases you had multiple copies of things
oh
and
yeah,
like you had Xeroxes of one and then the original of another, and so like if it's a Xerox and there's already a copy of it, then I'll, just recycle that. But
yep, yep, absolutely. Um, and then I think the same time that you were here, Mowgli, somebody was sending me boxes of stuff, and in that was a catalog from Time Time Designs.
Time
Uh,
Designs.
Probably circa, well, what year was that? Was that indie? What festival is this? Indianapolis something? Yeah, the
87 was the
87. Okay.
second Indianapolis festival.
Okay. So this would be circa then, 87, 88. And it's this little catalog from Time Designs about the various things that they sell. Obviously the magazine, the back issues of the magazine, and etc. But there's they talk a little bit about, sort of the world as it was then. And one of the things that they had, I'm just bringing it up, and I'm going to apologize for the low resolution because this is in real life. This picture is an inch and a half tall by maybe 2.5 inches wide. So you will see the halftone screen very clearly. However, that person on the right.
Yeah, that was the festival where I bought my Airco, I believe.
Nice.
Because I also met the Airco guys there.
Oh, wow. Wow. Very cool.
Was that 1987?
Yes.
Okay, so I was there and I bought one of the shirts. I have it still. It
Yeah,
doesn't fit anymore.
I was gonna say.
Would you believe I never got one?
And you organized it, right, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the organizers, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I have one of the shirts and I have the program from that as well. So.
Yeah, I think I have a program.
I sent you one.
Yeah, okay. Tim, you sent me a shirt a long time ago, and I can't remember what that was.
It might have been that one, I
Okay.
think. I think it was from the Bill Miller collection. And
If it's red with white lettering, that was the one from the second.
This one was yellow with red lettering. And
Oh, mine is
light.
green with white lettering from 87.
Okay, so they must have had different colors and things like that then. I don't remember that part.
So
It was also
one of
really
those
small.
Indianapolis ones, I think. They did like two of them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
87 was the second one. So they'd already done one. There, I think, was talk of doing a third one, but I don't know that the third one ever happened.
About how many people came?
Hey, Paul, do you recall?
900 plus.
To the first one or the second one?
Second one.
Well, yeah, the one I was at, 100 or more. It was relatively well attended. And I was surprised by the vendors, the quantity of people. Everyone was just like geeking out all over the place. So everyone was in heaven.
Yeah,
I don't remember where the 88 one was, but in 89, the capital area, Thomas Sinclair hosted that one in DC in 89. So I'm not sure what the 88 one was, but I can look that up.
But for the 87 one, I was in a room with 6 people that only slept 4, and I drew the short straw, so I was one of the people sleeping on the floor. And I pretty much got like 2 hours of sleep every night, and then pretty much just ran around the convention during the day.
Back then, you could work on 2 hours of sleep, though.
I was young and I was stupid, so yeah, 2 hours of sleep was fine.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say overrated. 1988, there's a Northwest show.
Yeah.
Was held in Nashville, Cyril. Okay. Then August, another show was held in Lakewood, Ohio. So Northwest, I'm thinking like maybe Seattle. Yeah, Seattle. So 88 was Seattle. Oh, that was actually 87. September 87 was in Seattle. In 1988, the National TS show was held in Florida, Orlando.
And the Midwest Regional was in Cleveland. Okay.
So if you ever go on my website, look up the QL in North America, I'm actually documenting all the different shows for Timex and QL.
Oh, nice.
89 was, of course, the one held in New Carrollton, Maryland. by Capital Fest. 1990 was Wisconsin. Waukesha, Wisconsin. So,
Wisconsin. Is that the
Patterson
smug?
Resolution.
Yeah.
all big group.
I thought that was Milwaukee because that was the weekend of the race up there.
Well, Waukesha might be near Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
New Carrollton, Maryland is technically Washington, D.C. So, you know.
Ran into my neighbor at the drive-through at McDonald's after the show. And he beat me by an hour and a half getting home.
And of course, it was 91 or 92 when the first North American QL show started, QL only, by Bob Dill.
Is that the IQL, the Miracle in Newport?
Yeah.
Looks like the first
No,
one was
93 was the first one.
Yeah.
That's what they called it,
Remember-
Miracle? Newport?
Yeah, Miracle in Newport.
Miracle
fun part
System
was-
showed up.
Miracle was a vendor, right?
Yeah. So Miracle was going to work on a video adapter for the QL to give you high resolution. And I wanted the door prize. It never transpired. I still never saw it. Although I think it was offered the prototypes here. If you can fix this, you can have it. Because they hadn't quite got it working yet. So they're about to offer me the prototype. I'm like, no, I would not do that. But that was the only door prize I ever won at any of those events, was the one prize that never showed up. I remember who wrote that. I think it was Stuart Honeyball that did the design. Unfortunately, he's gone now. So
Do they have kind of a modern equivalence of something like that now, Tim?
well, they did something called the Aurora, which was, if I remember correctly, so you had with the QL, you had something called the Trump card, and then you had the gold card and super gold card. They were add-ons to your base board, right? And they would give you extra CPU and more horsepower and so on. But they were still limited because you're running on the base computer. So the idea behind the
so you
Aurora,
replace the CPU with like a 68020 or what?
yes.
Oh, wow.
But you're still running on the base computer. So what the idea was to then say, well, let's get rid of the old computer, take the gold card or super gold card, what's necessary, and they designed that to be the Aurora. So the Aurora plus your gold card or super gold card gave you a complete system, whereas the super gold card wasn't a complete system at all. It was an add-on.
In memory, and they they copied the code off the ROM into it. So it was a quasi, but you still needed the base.
Right. And so I think instead of using the base motherboard, they created the Aurora, which then allowed them to create higher level graphics. So you can do more depth instead of just 4 or 8 colors.
Oh, more colors as well. So not just higher
right.
resolution.
So if you ever look at emulators, they'll talk about how there's Aurora is one video mode because it emulates that particular graphics mode. So,
Tim, there was also a Q40 or Q60 thing.
both. So the Q40, which I had but no longer, was basically a total redesigned motherboard. So for total redesign, there's the Q40, the Q60, and the Q68. The Q68 is more recent and is smaller. The Q40 was the size of a piece of paper, basically. And you would grab any old chassis, desktop chassis, Windows, PC chassis, put it in. It had, I think it was a mini ATX form factor, designed to, so if you had it, you say, oh, I want to buy a case for a mini ATX, and then the standoffs are in the right place to mount it in it. And it took a VGA. Mine after a while had problems. You can also run Linux on it. So it would have its own hard drive running QL stuff, or you could run Q40 Linux and run Linux on it, which I did both.
Wow.
And the Q60 called the Q40 because it uses 6840, and the Q60 uses 6860.
Okay.
So wait, I'm confused about that because how would it be running its old software? Like most software was like timing dependent, wasn't it, on the 68,000 speed?
No, not really. I
No?
don't think. Um, so what they did is it came with QDOS on ROM, but you could also load SMSQE if you wanted to, which I did. Um, but because that was back in 2000 when I got that one, so it's been a while since the Q40 came out. The guy that designed the Q40 and the Q60 did the Q68, and he's still around, if I remember correctly,
Yeah,
on the QL forums.
I recall stumbling across something maybe on one of the QL forums about the Q68 being available, but that might have been a thread that was a few years old. I
I
don't
think
know.
he's continued. The guy's still building them a little at a time, but it's all done by one guy. So, he'll build like, 10 or 20 and then sell them. And 6 months later, maybe build a few more and sell them. And,
Yeah,
so it's not something that's mass produced.
yeah, yeah. Um, that reminds me that 3 months later, um, if you ever ordered Spectrum stuff from Europe within the past couple of years, you probably ordered from a company called Byte Delight. And the guy behind Byte Delight, or Byte Delight would sell the Div MMC, which was a device that plugged into the back of the Spectrum and runs its own DOS called ESX DOS. Lets you load stuff off of SD card and etc. There was also a HDMI converter doodad, the name of which escapes me, that used a Raspberry Pi Zero, if I recall correctly. Again, plugged into the back of your Spectrum and gave you it used the Raspberry Pi's HDMI video output and, you know, mapped the Spectrum into it. And then a bunch of other stuff. And he would repair Spectrums and stuff. Anyway, the guy behind that, his name was Ben. Oh, shoot. Ben's last name is, I'm drawing a blank on it right now. But Ben passed away in December.
Did
And
he?
so, yeah, and so Byte Delight is no more, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah, which for the Spectrum folks, I mean, he did a lot of stuff, and that's a big hit to that
Yeah.
community.
But he was doing a lot of repairs because I know
A
he
lot,
does
a
a lot
lot
of
of repairs.
YouTube. Yeah, a lot of YouTube videos. And
Hmm.
I just recently, I mean, it's, like in the last year or two, that's where I got my the diagnostic cartridge.
Right.
He made the diagnostic cartridge. I know somebody else originally came with it, but I think, I can't really find any files online, like to make a board. Right?
Oh,
If you
Hmm.
like
wanted to
not
make
an
a
open source
board,
project.
it kind of seems that way, but it kind of seems that it kind of was. My main interest was, of course, fixing the spectrums, kind of some of the stuff I did with Brian's. I used that cartridge. The other thing is the software that's on it, right, pretty much replaces the Spectrum ROM. So if this ROM
Hmm.
is bad, when you put that diagnostic cartridge in, it basically runs its own software. And I actually got that to work on the new that board I'm developing for the micro drives right on the 2068 because it has basically a ROM swap right in there, and I put the ROM from that diagnostic cartridge into the 2068 because the connector on the end of the cartridge is for a Spectrum,
Yep.
so it won't directly plug into a 2068, and there's never been, as far as I know, any kind of usage of that diagnostics ROM on a 2068, but I put it into mine and booted it up and it works, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have all the lighting, the lights, all the address lines and all the, the IO lines that the diagnostic cartridge uses. But I imagine you can make a twister maybe or something like that and plug it in. I just didn't think of, really doing that because it checks the voltages. I mean, it has the LEDs for all the voltages, and the 268, doesn't use the same voltages. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it does work, and I was kind of glad to see that because, at least it's some kind of, we don't really have a diagnostic other than maybe kind of the one that I wrote that we still really don't have that. But, anything to actually diagnose, the hardware on the 2068. And if somebody did get that, that's kind of what I was thinking of trying to get the board designed. That way I could put a 2068 connector on it and keep all the, the IO lights, the data lights, and all that kind of stuff that the diagnostic cartridge has. But, plug it directly to a 2068, and maybe even the cartridge port. I don't know. But, at least that software's there and it does know it's a 2068, right? So there is some smarts that they must have put in there. Maybe because of the Portuguese one, the Timex computer 2068, but it does know that it's the SLD is from the 2060, or maybe it thinks it's the PAL one, but at least it does work. So I mean, it can do all the the diagnostic stuff that it does on a 2068. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he's passed, I don't know. Like I said, it'd be nice to get the board design for that. The software hasn't really seemed to be updated in quite a while. It's been several years since I think 2021 was like the last release that they made. So, get maybe the source code for that, and we could throw some 2068 specific things into it, perhaps. I don't know, but I don't know who made that. I mean, you can find out who made that board, but Byte Delight must have been working with them. And I think Byte Delight, he came up with this diagnostic board. Because like I said, you can't get plans for it. There's no way to download that. So I don't know if they may be open to opening that up a little bit. But somebody's got to pick up that, Byte Delight was a huge. So somebody's got to pick up that.
So this is actually one of the very big problems, both in our industry and everywhere else, is that people who do this kind of stuff don't necessarily prepare properly for when they have shoved off this mortal coil and other people need to do stuff with what they've left behind. Right now, there's a big kerfuffle in my book area because there was software called Readerware, which I was using to catalog all the books, that did a really nice job of scraping and automatically filling out a database and things for you. And that person has either passed away or, has been put in a home somewhere. And apparently his kids and such don't really want to continue anything, so they've literally dropped it. So that software suddenly has basically kind of gone away, or it still operates to some extent, but it complains because the website is no longer there and it was getting updates from the website. And eventually the screen scrapers will be out of sync with what the various companies have. And so eventually the software will become useless. And so there are these problems. And a friend of mine and I have talked about actually doing a talk at VCF Midwest at some point about okay, so you're dead, now what? Is what we want to title the talk. Because part of it, especially, I mean, I've gone to plenty of estate sales where there's a whole bunch of documentation there and the computers are missing, and you ask about it and they're like, well, because we thought they had personally identifiable information on them, we basically destroyed all of the computers. And you're like, but these were things with floppy drives and not even a hard drive. I mean, okay, you could have, if anybody knew anything, but so it is really kind of important if you have a collection of any kind. I will advocate that you make sure that you find some place for that collection to go. Especially check with your family. If they don't want it, try and make sure that it goes somewhere and not to a dumpster or gets shredded or, gets dumped somewhere.
We just send spare keys to our house to David.
Well,
it's an option.
I mean,
you want to put a note in the will that the keys should be sent to David.
Yeah.
Just to make sure. But
he'll just come by and pick everything up. There we go.
Yeah.
Except if you're on the West Coast, then it's Tim.
Well, my wife's going to want all my Timex stuff, so I'll tell you that. Well, I'll just have Ryan come pick it up, actually. Ryan and Carl.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're correct, Mowgli.
That's
Yeah,
kind
I've
of like why
seen.
that's one of the reasons I release everything I do with the Creative Commons license. So if and when I pass or
Well,
I
you
don't
are going to
stop using
pass,
it,
so there's no if.
yeah.
But sorry.
So you mortals, I don't know about anyhow. Um, Someone can then take whatever I've done and then reuse it and re-release it. It's
Mhm.
not static. It's not locked away somewhere. So,
Okay,
and it has
but
the license built into it, so you don't have to guess. Oh, gee, does the person want it to? They're dead now. Can I really use their stuff? So
but
yeah,
you need to put that in your will somewhere that that's your intention and that all of that stuff should be, and like one of the, I would say, one of the general places, if you don't want to pick somebody specific, is you can just have people look up the VC Fed and post something on the VC Fed somewhere, and they should be easily able to find somebody there who's interested in whatever the stuff is. But
but all my documents have the Creative Commons license attached, saying free. It has all the specifications. So
do your
every
kids
single
know what that
document.
means?
I don't even know if they know what documents I publish. I don't think they've ever been to my website. They probably don't
And
really give a. They don't care. It's
right,
already
so
out there
this
and
is
available.
this is the problem. To your kids, your website is another bill that they just stopped paying.
Hmm.
No, there's no bill. It's free. So
Okay, for a
Well,
while.
Mowgli does bring up a good point, and it probably is a good conversation to have at some of these computer things. Is the big thing is the will. You need to, and because most people, don't think about, oh, I want to will my Timex Sinclair crap to some place. That's certainly not in my front of my mind when I was thinking of, writing a will. But I mean, that's a good point to bring that up because I don't think I've ever seen a presentation about, like you said, you're dead. Now what? So I mean, you got to plan a little bit. And so, yeah, maybe just have a little, a paragraph in there about your Timex and Sinclair stuff. Maybe go to not necessarily David specifically, obviously, but some kind of you know thing that that would appreciate or value that more than their kids would, or anybody that doesn't know anything about it.
Yeah,
This reminds me of something that happened last Sunday. I invited Ryan over because we're going to have a little get together, and he's like, "No, no, you guys are just going to be doing Atari stuff the whole time." And we didn't end up messing with the Atari at all. We ended up messing with the TI 99 the whole time actually instead. But my friend Brian brought over a TRS 80 Model 1. No, not a Model 1, the first Coco, the silver Coco. I don't know what it's really
Hmm.
called.
Just the
Coco one.
original color
Yeah, but
computer, just the
Yeah,
yeah.
model 1 or 2 or 3, but 1 or 2 probably. The 3 had a white case.
Well, I don't know. I don't know much about the systems, but he brought it over and he gave it to our friend Rick so he could fix it. But I said, "Oh, it didn't come with any software." And the person who gave it to him said, "Yeah, well, this had belonged to me when I was a kid, and my parents threw the 3 boxes of software away." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And so I was like, "Where's the computer?" They're like, "Oh, we're gonna throw that away." Like, you already threw away the boxes of software? So like he got a box or just a computer. So people like who are alive still lose their stuff if it's not
right.
physically in their house.
Comic
Yeah.
books.
Comic books? What makes you
Comic
say
books
that?
and baseball cards. I mean, this is
Hmm.
a, you know, I
Yeah,
left the
this
house
is
for
a
10 minutes
broad.
and my family threw everything away.
it's
Oh.
it's any collection, really. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have
Um,
to label these things. Label the box. This is this stuff.
Yeah.
Would that
If
make a
you're gonna
difference? Why would that?
if you're gonna throw this away, at least contact this
right,
person.
Oh.
right. One of the things you can also do is appoint a proctor for anything that's like your computer stuff or something like that. Somebody who knows what computer stuff is and can sort it out and stuff. If you've got a friend like that, you can always just say, like, okay, for anything that is computer stuff, my Timex Sinclair stuff, my whatever, Atari and such, this person is in charge of figuring out what to do with it. If, the rest of your family has no interest in it and doesn't know anything about it, you need to find somebody who at least knows something about it in order to, dispose of it properly.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
And
straighten it out.
that's just kind of what I'm saying is, not just for the Timex stuff. So Timex stuff, obviously, we know some people that we would want to, take custody of the equipment. But this goes for all the old stuff. Like Atari people, Commodore people. I mean, there's I don't know if there's some kind of database or some kind of what am I trying to say? Some place where you could will these things to, or at least include them in your will to
Like the
contact
Strong
these
Museum will
people.
take like computer stuff, like if you know what
Well,
that is.
it has to kind of be some kind of entity, not a person, right? Because that person can pass away too, and now that's invalid. So it
Yeah.
has to be, and I don't know if there's really like a database or something that, I want to donate my Commodore stuff to, the Commodore Museum, or my Timex up to the Timex Museum, stuff like that. It's just, I don't think it's really common knowledge and people don't even think about it, right? It's just,
Yeah. The other thing about the museums is like they really only need a couple of items. Like unless you have unique items, they don't have room for it. I mean, they
well,
have
yeah.
enough space for
Yeah.
what they can hold.
Yeah,
Unless they're
there's a difference between you've got unique stuff that's not preserved, and there's, hey, we just want this to go to someone who appreciates it.
Sure, there is a difference.
yeah.
Yep.
And to an extent, a difference between libraries and museums. One of the guys involved, one of the editors of Sync magazine, apparently had a collection of stuff, as you do, random stuff in boxes. And he gave it to, oh, some university library out in the Midwest somewhere. I want to say Illinois or something. Um,
Northern Illinois, maybe.
maybe, but you can, it shows up. I did a search on him. It was like Paul Grosjean, I think. And, it shows up in their online catalog, but you'd have to go there to actually use the materials, which is kind of a
Well,
challenge.
that's better than not being able to use it at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the general problems is that a lot of the libraries have things in special collections.
Yep.
And those are special collections is nice, they have them, but in order to access them, usually you have to make an appointment in some form or another. They're not necessarily out on the floor. And sometimes you have to go, sometimes you're not necessarily in the library. You have to go to one of the outbuildings where they have the things stored in large file cabinets or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so libraries will generally take, the materials and the paper. They aren't interested in the computers themselves because they're not really museum in most cases. And so then you have a problem of like if you're trying to make those things to go to the right places, you're probably splitting them.
Yeah.
And you're probably taking the books and papers maybe and sending them somewhere, and the hardware and software might go somewhere else because the library doesn't deal in that.
Yeah, it needs to kind of go to somebody that would kind of go through it and archive it, right? Scan it, read the discs and make it into a, format that, you can create a new disc if you wanted to, but, at least it's not just down that disc, right? And if that disc gets damaged or lost, it's gone.
Well,
So
I have
it's
to say,
just,
Carl, that is a tough job to give to somebody.
it is,
Like
it
it
is.
is. Like you're like I've been given that job with a large Atari collection, and I it's I've given it. You have some of it now. Ryan has some of it now. I'm pointing at my screen, but I mean, other people in the Albuquerque area have it. What I did to get rid of that, or not, I still have a ton of it because it was so large. Is I put a post on Atari Age. I said, "Here's what I want to do with it." Everyone, of course, jumped on it, and then I said, "Nope. People who are local can come pick it up." And I had people who said, "Oh, I'll just drive to your house from Washington, from New York." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that. Like, if you're local, we'll chat." And that's how I met, people here who are into these classic computers is through that actually. Some people anyway.
And it's
And
kind of, it's kind of like with me, I do want to archive things, because I've got some very expensive scanners, right,
Right.
for paper stuff.
Sure.
Now, granted, you have to take it apart, but then I also have it's a camera system where you don't have to take the book apart. You just kind of open it up and lay it down on its thing, and it scans it and it uses a laser and flattens it and all
It's
that
an
kind of
overhead
crap.
scanner.
Well, kind of, but it's a Caesar kind of thing. But that's kind of what it's designed to do, is so you don't have to take the book apart, right? You lay it down and open it up, and it'll actually flatten the pages out, and it has all the software to do that. I haven't really played too much around with it, but that's kind of what I got it for, is for those kind of documents that I don't want to, tear apart.
Sure.
Right. For the most part, tear it apart. Who cares? At least you're preserving it, and that's the best way to do it, because I can feed it into my scanners and scan 1,000
Right.
pages
You
in,
scanned
in,
8
in
of my
5 minutes.
books in like a couple of hours.
Yeah. It's I can scan a book in 2 minutes. 100-page, 500-page book in a couple of minutes on these scanners. And but same thing with software. Like you get a grease weasel, or I can't remember the other thing. I had to flex something.
Cryoflux.
Yeah. And that way you can read all kinds of discs, right? It doesn't matter what format they are. You're just reading the magnetic flux that's on the discs, right? That way you can back those up. But like I said, it takes some specialized equipment. Not everybody's going to have these scanners that I have.
Hardly anybody has them, in fact.
Well, yeah, but and I didn't really buy them for that specifically. I bought it more for me to archive my own magazine collection, because I don't need the physical paper usually, And I know some people, they like that, right? They like the physical paper, and they don't like it when you debind them, right, and make
That
them
would be
loose
me.
leaf. Yeah, when you loose leaf them. But then again, hey, at least the book is still 95% there, right? It's still.
But do we need to preserve every book of every copy? Because all the books I've
No.
got here have already been preserved.
Right.
So
Right.
I think we
As
need
long
to
as
get we need to get we need to get into the mind of our relatives. That so let's say I die and I have a 56 Mustang. Oh, sorry, let's say I have a 64 and a half Mustang. People go, well, that's junk. We'll throw that away. No, everyone goes, hey, 60, that's the 64 Mustang. That's a classic. That has value. We need to convey that to our family members. Hey, these computers have value. Don't consider them junk. Don't toss them. No one would do that with an old Mustang. I mean, those has value, but you need to convey it to our family that these are computers that have value. If you don't want to, don't want to keep them, find a place for them to go. Don't just automatically throw them away. So
yeah, and
luckily we did that with the Bill Miller collection. Someone reached out to us, hey, all this stuff, and we preserved it. Didn't archive it all, but we preserved it. We got it by going to the right people, and people can reuse it.
Yeah, and part of the thing is, like, you need to check with your family, but if they don't know about this stuff, one of the options is to find somebody who does know about the stuff and put explicitly in there, when I die, about this stuff, this person is the person who should help you dispose of this stuff. You need to call him, you need to talk to them, and you need to get advice from them on how to dispose of it. Rather
Well,
than
there
just
also
throwing
is the
away.
line of thought that, I mean, unless you die unexpectedly, you can do all of this yourself. Like, you don't need to hold on to everything.
Well,
And
that's what happened to
But
Ben.
yeah.
well, I
Seems
think
like a
that's what
good.
happened. Well, I was going
Seems
to say
like a
what
good.
happened to Ben was he seemed very healthy. Well, I don't know how healthy he was, but he was very active, just I think right up until he passed. I think something happened there. I don't know what, but he wasn't like died of,
Who is
old
this
age. He
person you
wasn't that
said?
old.
Ben?
I'll look it up. Ben. Yeah, it's
Yeah, he wasn't that old. He's like probably a lot of our age, around probably maybe 50s, 60s, but I don't know what happened to him. But, that was more of an unexpected death, I think, in that case.
Yeah. Ben Versteeg.
It's
Verst.
probably not the same type of thing, but I know with the wood turning group that I'm with, whenever one of our members, and most of them are my age and older, when one of them dies, the wife usually calls the group, and the group goes, we'll send about 2 or 3 guys over. They'll catalog what's there, all the machines. They'll catalog this and that and give you an idea of what each machine is worth. And then we'll see if we can sell it for you. And then, you get the money back. And most of them are just so happy they have a clear area again. They're going, please do. So if you've got, like we have here, with a bunch of Timex people, or like I said, I've got Osborne's and I've got K Pros. I mean, if I've got people that want that or books or things like that, hey, if there was somebody that said, wow, we can come over and take these, preserve these, sell them to somebody else that is going, oh, I want to know how to do perfect calc. Hey, books right here, still usable. Fine. But that's what groups are for.
Yeah.
But but the point is that I think it's a valid point. Like Mowgli, we need to that needs to be kind of a more of a discussion point in all of these special interest groups. I think any kind of that's a woodworking thing, of course, but it's the same difference, right? There's specialized equipment and equipment that's old, right? In the newer generation or people that don't know. A lot of these things it's kind of hard to find anything about them even online because they're so old, right?
It
Yeah.
seems like, what Adam said, that, you're willing to help, but then it can be quite a burden. And so,
Right. Yeah. And I do want to say, like, what I ended up doing with the software side of the stuff for the huge Atari collection I got is I contacted someone who does all the archiving, and I went through one afternoon or one over a full day, and I basically listed every single piece of every disc, and I said, "Is there anything stuff that you need?" And they said, "Actually, yes. You have a lot of unique stuff." So I sent it off to him, and he said, "I'll send it back," and that was like 5 years ago. So he still has it. I never got it back, but it was archived and it's put out there. So, I don't care to get the software back, although I do have all the documentation for it. So I have the boxes, but they don't have the software.
And it's kind of
Well,
interesting too, because I get stuff from Japan, right? So I
Mhm.
because I'm a big Pioneer guy, and so Pioneer had a lot of what they call JDM, and I'm sure other manufacturers did it. What's the Japanese domestic market, right? They only made stuff for Japan, right? Sure, they made stuff for everywhere else too, but they made certain things just for the Japan market. Anyway,
Was
I
it higher
noticed
quality
some.
or?
Um, I don't necessarily think it's that. It's just maybe, a lot of times. Well, anyway, it's you know it may be a copy or something of something that they sell worldwide, but it's more, the style of it or something like that is just for the Japanese market. And a lot of times it is kind
Okay.
of more unique, right? But anyway, I noticed some Iowa must have made, because I'm a big Iowa fan, they made computer cassette recorders, right? But they made them primarily, it looks like, for the MSX stuff, but it looks like it digitizes it. So when you send in an analog signal, somehow I think it digitizes it and puts it on the tape, right? It doesn't just record it analog, analog. It actually digitizes it, so it makes it really easy for it to play it back, and I think it reconverts it back to analog from the digital on the tape. So I got the two different versions of it. I mean, they need to get shipped here, but I didn't even know they made those. But I've never seen any other
Hey,
manufacturer.
David, we're down to just a couple of minutes left here.
yeah.
Yeah, and I know there's other manufacturers that made computer cassette recorders, right? But they're just basically analog. They
Right.
don't have any special circuitry in them like these look like they do. I won't know until I get them, but it does say that they digitize them somehow.
Yeah.
And so you can, almost fail-proof loading and saving.
That's
So I'm
cool.
like, wow. I'm like, I wonder what that would do to hook it up to a Timex and see what kind of, tape that it records. But
It's
anyway,
too sophisticated for the Timex. It'll fail.
well, MSX is the same thing. The MSX wasn't that complicated either.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to bring that up because I mean it's kind of more archiving things because I'm thinking, what if you play it back and I don't know. I don't know how that thing works till I get them. So we'll see. But it's kind of an interesting add-on that they actually, have some
Yeah,
processing
since
circuitry
we've got a
inside the
group of
tape deck.
people who like weird stuff, and since the MSX standard didn't really work out here, are there any people who collect MSX? I mean, I've always been curious about that system, and I've emulated it, but anyone here got any of those computers? Ah, Joe does. Okay.
Joe has everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I
It's
have the Yamaha and the South American version of the Daewoo. I can't remember the name of it. Talent MSX machines.
Are they NTSC or? I guess they all would be because Japan is NTSC, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, well, the Yamaha was made for the American music market,
Okay.
actually. So
That's the
it's a very
CX5M.
yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting machine. So
Yeah, it is.
What does it hook up to a keyboard or something? Or
yeah, there's a specific keyboard made specifically for that. There's two of them that had a special interface that goes right into it. It's not like
cool.
MIDI. It's more like it just reads the key switches. So yeah, and it had a bunch of modules for editing music. So it's kind of like Audacity and hardware.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool system because it's Z80 based, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah. You could hook it up to your DX7 synthesizer and edit the sounds on that, among other things. Yeah.
And a lot of the Japanese manufacturers came out with those computers. You know, Casio came out with them. I think Pioneer has a couple of, it's like kind of weird that you would think some of these manufacturers that weren't really into computers per se, but they would have like an MSX machine that they created, so like I guess they could get a little money out of that market. Right.
Yeah. Toshiba, Hitachi.
It's funny. It's like really one of the only big projects that Microsoft was behind that like totally flopped, right? Like in hardware wise, I guess. But anyway, I guess that's not true, but it's from that time period.
Yeah.
Well, it was hugely popular around the world, just not in the US.
Just not here.
I know.
It's just not here. Yeah.
Egypt.
Oh.
There's a lot of MSX computers from that built for Egypt. It's very strange. You look on eBay and you'll find
I believe you.
It's so crazy. Anyway, on that note, two things. Our next meeting will be Monday, April 6th, which is apparently Easter Monday. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
I guess for people who are exceptionally interested in Easter, it gets carried over to, the next day. That's the Monday meeting. That's at 9 o'clock Eastern. We will need to figure out what to do with our usual Sunday meeting in April because I will be at VCF East in New Jersey, and that takes place April 17th, which is a Friday, through April 19th.
Well, you can just grab a seat there and run the meeting from there.
Just do a live broadcast.
Yeah.
Hey.
Why not?
I think they're breaking down at 3 o'clock or something like that. So, they'd want to try to kick me out right in the middle of the meeting.
Why don't we just postpone it by a week then?
Yeah. We'll just do that. We'll just postpone it by a week.
Which would make it what day then?
20th something.
26th.
Let me go back to the calendar here.
Wow, that late?
Oh, that is pretty late, yeah.
Yep, the 26th. Yeah. Well, February and March, the first Sunday fell on the 1st of the month. That's why we're here today on the 15th, which is, only the second
It'll be
full
3
week.
weeks before our next meeting.
Yep, exactly. And on that note, go do something else.
We always forget, is there anything we're covering in the next meeting? Not normally there isn't, but is there anything anyone would like to cover?
Yeah.
Anybody? Crickets?
Maybe Greg will show us his program.
It'll be finished by then for
We'll
sure.
put Greg on the spot.
If I'm quit being a lazy ass, we'll see.
Greg, you had another program.
Yeah, I got the Wordle.
That's right.
That is with the huge library. So yeah.
Did you end up sharing that over the group? I can't remember.
I didn't ever show that one. I showed the original basic one I did, but it had a very limited library.
That was the one that you had like a 28,000 words or something crazy like
yeah,
that?
I forget how many. It's not that many, but it's over 16K of words.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm mistaken. What was someone was talking about just recently on the group that they had 28,000 words using the TS-Pico? For Hangman. That's what it was for.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, well, that's like, I don't know who's going to play Hangman, but that's a lot of words.
Yeah. Well, I intentionally picked Wordle because it's all 5-letter words. So if you have something like Hangman, you have a huge dictionary to work with.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
And hopefully, for my case, HP let me know that I'm available for their early retirement enhanced early retirement program,
Oh, wow.
which they don't do. I think the last one was 3 years ago, and I don't even know if we had one before that. So I qualified for that. So, and I put in for that. So, I may be retired if they accept me into that program. I may be retired here in May or June or July. So then I might have some more time to dedicate to these projects of mine. So,
we'll have to have you over here more often as well, Carl.
yeah. Well, at least I won't have a day job anymore per se. Well, I'll have a day job, I'm sure, but it won't be HP. I'm not going to work for somebody else. That's the other thing too, is I'm probably going to start doing a lot of YouTube content.
And Jeff Burrell can speak to what it's like to be retired, and and part of this community, in that we crack the whip and make you do all this work, and it's just like working, except not being paid.
Yeah, well, I'm sure my wife will have something to say about that, though. I'm sure Jeff's wife probably, the same thing. No, because I didn't really vacation a lot, so I'm thinking, maybe it's time. I'm still young enough. I'm only 58 now, so maybe try and go and see some places.
Yeah, cool.
Buffalo, New York sounds awesome.
Oh boy. Not this winter it didn't.
No. It's nice in the summer.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. See you in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good meeting. Bye, everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye.
All right. See